Now we're going to talk about lists in Python. Python lists are very similar to arrays in C++, except lists are a bit more versatile. To start with, let's look at some of the basics of a Python list. To make an empty list, what you do is you assign a variable empty brackets. So here I've made a list named A that is empty. If I want to print A, what I can do is when I run this program, I am going to actually see an empty list. So if I run it, yep, I have empty square brackets. Python allows you to print lists by just saying print the variable. Okay, now let's fill A with some numbers. Let's fill it with a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So now I have 6 elements in A. If I print A, I now have seen that list printed on the console. Now, a cool thing about Python lists is they don't all have to be of the same type. So I could put a string variable in this middle of this list of integers and everything is still fine. So let's replace this number 2 with the word hello. Like so. Now if I save this file and run it, it prints hello. This is very useful if you have some sort of spreadsheet where some columns are integers and other columns are words. This is totally fine in Python. You can deal with a 2D array with the columns being different types. Okay. Python also comes along with some very useful functions that you can use with a list. So let's say, first of all, that I want to append something to this list. That would mean add it to the end. Let's say I want to add a 6 to this list A. What I can do is I can do a.append. Let's put the number 6. And now let's print A. If I do this, I now have the first list has 5 elements in it, and the second goes up to the number 5, and the second one goes up to the number 6. Another helpful list function that you can do includes insert and index. Index returns the index of a value. You can find these lists if you go, or these different functions, if you look at on the Python documentation, which you can find at http://docs.python.org. This is a very useful resource for this project, and it includes a list of all of these functions that you can do on lists. I'm going to show one other very cool thing that you can do with lists. Actually, 2 other things. First of all, you can find the maximum of a list very easily. So let's say I have my maximum of my list to be 22, and I have it just kind of in the middle of this list A here. In C++, you'd have to do a loop and just go along and try and find the maximum. Here, what you can do is, let's say I want to print the max of A. Guess what? Python finds the max of A. So if I do this, it's going to print out 22. I can also do something very cool that I can sum up A. So let's do the sum of all the integer values in A. That's 35. These are another couple of very useful tools that you can use in Python. One last thing that you should probably know about lists is that assigning 2 lists to each other is not enough to make a real copy. So let's say I have my list here. This is list A. And then let's say I want to make a second list, and I say list B equals A. Now, in C++, what this would do is you'd actually, well, what you might think this would do is now I have 2 lists, one is B and one is A, and I can modify them. But the issue is, let's say I go down here and say A of 0 equals 100. This is going to modify both the lists associated to list B and list A. So after this, if I print A and then B, I'm going to see that they both have modified that first thing by 100. Yep, there we go. So how do I make 2 separate lists so I can modify one? To do that, you'll actually have to use a loop and build the second list. You'll probably want to do this using either a while loop and using .append from a blank list, or you can also do this with a for loop. This is a good thing to keep track of in this project where you will have to make what's called deep copies of your lists.